Greetings, weary traveler. Come, warm yourself by the fire, and let us regale you with mighty tales, tales of adventure, tales of excessive technical problems, tales of heroism, and tales of Tamriel. As anybody that is catching the live show might notice, we are actually on my channel this evening. We have run into a slew of technical issues, but in our ever-vigilant quest to not miss shows unless it's completely unavoidable. Pixie's already dying.
Silently. Nobody would have known if you hadn't told them.
I know. We have managed to get things up and running, so, this is how we are going to record tonight so that you can have an audio version for anybody stopping in for the live show, which has kind of bounced all over the place. We originally wanted to run this on the actual Dungeon Crawler Network show. Ark, unfortunately, is, on a serious note, feeling under the weather. He's been readjusting to his vacation, which is good. He needs sleep, as I think everybody can agree. But he was concerned about getting a migraine, so hopefully Ark is doing better, getting some rest, and he'll be good as new soon enough. And in the meantime, with there being some news, but it's not crazy news week, it'll just be me and Pixie this evening, giving you a quick recap, a couple tales, honestly some news bits that just would be good to be addressed. And then following the show, we will pick the winners of the Elsewhere Coin giveaway as well. So good luck to everybody who has entered, and we will post those to Twitter since that's where the thing was run. So, but that will happen after the show. We'll just post the winners, we'll contact you, and so forth. So, Pixie, let's address the fact that you are also here. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Great. Glad to actually be here and actually be live after 36 minutes of struggle.
Yeah, we were at this for a while. So, in case I did not mention it, because this is a little more off, I am Lotus of Doom. I will be your main host for tonight instead of for Ark. And I suppose we can just kind of get into the goodness of what we have to talk about this week. We can start by, since the notes were updated, our newest Patreon/Twitch supporters of, oh boy, I did not get a prep work on how to say this, IB Runners, which I'm pretty sure is how you would say that if you put it all together, so thank you very much, and Drell Cag, who I actually was chatting with during our Mordau stream with Agelos and Arkhaniir last night. So thank you so much for your support. It is greatly appreciated and keeps our metaphorical torches lit. So,
I feel like we should change that to metaphorical dumpster fires lit, especially after tonight's shenanigans.
Yeah, this was not a smooth transition whatsoever. Because, here's your behind the scenes thing, which we were kind of alluding to. There were a lot of technical problems tonight, so hopefully Ark can work his magicka and get this show all cleaned up for the actual show. The recorded version, at least. Everybody who joins us live knows what a dumpster fire this show is. So many of you have kind of been waiting on us to actually go live, and that was like straight up, like Pixie had mentioned, like at this point, like 40 minutes ago. Streamlabs broke. I didn't have a panel set up, but Pixie managed to walk me through how to get a little panel set up so that we can do this. Her Streamlabs broke. I really don't understand why all the things were breaking, but que sera, we're still here and hopefully able to provide you a little enjoyment of listening for your work week. Fuckers can see, why do you guys break everything? Because it's the fun thing to do. Hello, chat, who's actually joined us over here. Much appreciated. Everybody's swinging by.
I managed to even break ESO. It wouldn't give me my mouse back. So whenever Lotus called me, I couldn't even answer the call. And I had to like force close ESO in order to answer. And it just started off just real interesting.
That's also valid. Because the initial plan, like we've done the last couple of times, was when things go awry, we switch over to Pixie, who kind of has like a base setup for the live show. I don't. I have sort of one now. But that was a very spur-of-the-moment thing. So I guess without further ado and dwelling on all of our behind-the-scenes shenanigans, we can get into the actual news / tales. It shouldn't be a super beefy episode. But yeah, just a few things to discuss and chat about this week. So, Pixie, I don't know. I did not. To preface this, but did you happen to catch the running of the dungeons that they did on ESO Live?
No, I wasn't. I didn't make it. Yeah. I wanted to really bad because it looked like it was going to be a lot of fun, but I think we actually went and did some grocery shopping that day, so we had to get the toilet paper before everybody else did.
Before everybody else made toilet paper soup, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I unfortunately did not also get the chance to, but I believe it was with Gnarly Nate, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I hopefully it was entertaining. Did not get a chance to catch it myself, but there was a ESO Live with it. So that is probably on their main channel again, at least for the VOD, if you have interest in checking that out. We'll start with smaller... Oh, these are actually bigger topics than I expected. We'll start with smaller news and work bigger, I guess. This is slightly older news. It's not super, super recent. But TES Blades had its 1.6 patch come out, which the only thing that I figure is worth noting on that is the fact if you do still play Blades, since we kind of have switched to an all-encompassing Elder Scrolls podcast as opposed to just Elder Scrolls Online, if you do still actually play... Elder Scrolls Blades, you can now have multiple custom loadouts. That's really the only thing of note from this patch. They've done tweaks and bug fixes and all that stuff. I've goofed around with it. I don't have a lot of different loadouts, so I didn't really notice anything. But yeah, so that is what it is. That's pretty much your most recent Blades update. They keep changing it all the time. So if you ever want to check back in and see if it's more your thing, it's still free, still not on Switch, still not on PC. I think that'll help when it comes to those. But yeah, it's still chugging along, doing its thing. The next thing, E3 is canceled, officially.
Yeah, which is super sad, but also I feel like the most responsible thing to do personally. So I'm glad they did, even though I'm really sad. I've heard rumors that they're going to be doing some live streaming things, kind of like taking a page out of Nintendo's book is kind of what everybody's sort of thinking on it.
Oh, like a Nintendo Direct?
Yeah. But that I don't think any of that's been confirmed just yet.
No. And to that note, it's kind of interesting because we got information at the Vegas reveal specifically on stream where they said more to come at E3. Nothing was prepped because PAX East and Bethesda Game Days, it was too far back in the year, as usually it's in March. This year is February, so they didn't have anything prepped in advance. Also, I should stop looking at chat because it does keep breaking my train of thought and making me laugh, which is problematic. But yeah, so I would assume they have to do something like that because otherwise it's going to be weird to get this information on the new expansion coming out because the chapter is the big one. And last year, it was a big deal with Elsewhere. This year, grand scheme of things are getting canceled left and right. And, regardless of your take on the current situation, this kind of precaution is necessary to keep people safe. So I totally understand it. But it is going to be interesting to see how the team has to shift kind of on the fly like this. But they're pretty resourceful, so high hopes we'll get something along the lines of, like you said, like a Nintendo Direct or something maybe.
And kind of on this topic a little bit, I did notice one of the senior environment artists, Tim, on Twitter posted today that ZeniMax Online is going completely remote to telework. So their employees aren't even in the office, which apparently isn't normally their usual work protocol. So they're actually experiencing some shifts in workflow over at ZeniMax itself. And so I'm interested to see how smoothly that transition goes for them. I'll be watching Twitter to see if anybody says anything one way or another, but I'm sure it'll be okay. It is just an adjustment though, so hopefully they're still able to get bug fixes out, all of that good stuff on time without too much of an interruption on their end, because I know that can be frustrating as a developer trying to work and then having your whole workflow just thrown upside down.
Yeah, and I actually know it. It was Tim Rozek, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, I was going to trip over that pronunciation. So
that's fine. I'll take the reins and trip on it myself. Got it. But yes, I actually saw that as well. The other thing on the note of ZOS switching over to working at home as well is I want to shout out very specifically because he had posted something of himself in progress. We've made reference to some of the people that work a lot behind the scenes to keep all this stuff working. I mean, we know Finn, we know Gina, we know Jess, Rich, everybody like that. Somebody that I don't know if as many people know, but Wayne, who is their IT, he's their senior IT and tech support, has a picture of himself in the office because they can't do stuff without the IT functionally making these things work. So he actually has gone in, I assume, with his team to make sure everything is up and running so the team can actually do the work from home. So I wanted to give a huge shout out to Wayne. His tag is _Wayne and then the letter Z. If you have something nice to say, send it to Wayne on Twitter because he does not get to rest on this. And it's him and his team with the IT support behind the scenes that keeps so much of this stuff running. And they're really much more of like the unsung heroes to these situations. So send him a thank you because it's people like him that keep this stuff running so that we can all enjoy our game and everything like that. So it's very awesome that he's doing that, and hopefully that will keep everything on track for what they have planned so that they don't have to screw everything up or reorganize because, like you said, a lot of planning goes into this stuff.
Right.
This is totally out of left field, like, compared to many of the other things that you can sort of account for. A worldwide pandemic's not really one of those things you can account for too well, so...
And I just want to say that the ESO does have a really aggressive update schedule from my understanding of other MMOs. So if something does happen to get pushed back or there isn't a bug fix that's coming out as soon as you may or may not like, just keep this in mind because they're doing the best that they can whenever they can't even get to their office. And as somebody who's had to kind of switch their workflow in a development environment, it is kind of disruptive. So it's just be patient with them. They're going to do their best job no matter where they are. No need to think that they will not get it out as quickly as it should be now, right. But just something I'm thinking ahead to. So just be patient with them.
Yeah.
And I second that shout out to their IT team because I imagine this is an extremely stressful time for them right now as well.
Yeah, this is probably a pretty big shift. And I mean, again, since I'm not actually none of us are here employees of ZOS or Bethesda or anything like that, I usually don't feel the need to white knight for companies. However, this is one of those scenarios that's a little more all-encompassing. So maybe just cut them some slack if things for whatever reason don't quite go on schedule. They'll get there. Which actually can bring us to our next point. It's almost like I didn't butcher that segue by pointing out what a sweet segue that was.
We can just edit that part out. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
You did a good job.
It's not like Ark doesn't immediately have to edit 9 things upon starting this in the background. From me being so excited that I dropped several swears to start the actual show. which doesn't go well.
And
in a
that's how
PG
we
show.
know we're on your channel and not the Dungeon Crawler Network channel.
Bringing my own Boston flavor to the podcast. But so, on that note, Update 25, which all of you PC folk who have all been enjoying, has hit console. It hit console Tuesday for both Xbox and PS4. I didn't have much of a trouble downloading it on my end. Most of my friends managed to have pretty straightforward downloads. We streamed the Harrowstone Dungeons live, which we did blind, which I'll talk about later in Tales. But on the patching front, my patch, which I started at 5 a.m. when it went live at 2 or 3 a.m. Eastern, nobody was patching at that point because everybody is asleep in their comfy beds while I'm out walking boots. But before I did that, I started my download because I'm like, nobody's going to be on. Well, nobody was on. I got the download done and installed, and I think it was 53 minutes, which was pretty nice because I was expecting it to be way, way worse than that. It did go down from being 120-ish gigs on PS4. I believe it is now 82 or 83. So we lost a lot. They said about 30. It's closer to 40, which is impressive. So my hard drive thanks them. Performance-wise, I don't notice anything. Not to be negative. I literally just don't. It doesn't run bad by any means. But NPCs still. I mean, this maybe has a longer tail to it before it starts really doing too much. Oh yes. Also, that's another note that is worth bringing up. If you have the digital version, there's also. I heard it goes down to 62 gigs. That's a good point by Gone Crazy in chat. I have heard that some people are actually, it's only a 62 gig download, which is crazy to think that this game this big is only 62 gigs. That's nuts. But yeah, like I said, game doesn't run poorly by any means. I personally haven't had a single crash, which is awesome. I do know some people have been experiencing a lot of load screens or whatever. Mine have just kind of been standardized as far as I can tell. Dungeons have run fine. I guess maybe weapons. I didn't notice a difference. So either I'm just not realizing that things have improved or whatever, or they're just kind of just stabilized enough that it's like, okay, well, it feels comfortable. I haven't noticed any issues with, like, I don't know, bar swapping being off. So, yeah, actually, that's a very good point, Chris. Knock on wood for the no crashes, just for tempting fate. But I have heard that many people have had issues on PC on Cyrodiil. Pixie, have you been in Cyrodiil? I know you're not a PvPer, so...
Yeah, I haven't been in Cyrodiil since the update,
okay.
But I do have some friends in there who were saying that they were having some crashes.
Mm-hmm.
I had friends who were just in PvE with me who were having some crashes, but knock on wood, it has not crashed a single time since the update for me.
Okay.
Load screens, zone to zone, have always been really fast for me. Dungeon load screens are usually a little bit longer, but those seem shorter than they were previously, but it could just be me thinking they're supposed to be shorter. As an ex-PS4 player, I do have a question for you.
Sure.
So when I was back on PlayStation, it seemed like every other load screen would say, this may be an unusually long load
screen. Okay, so I actually have not, so to that point, I have not been seeing nearly as many of those, which... It's one of those things, maybe just because it's not happening, I'm not noticing it. But there is a joke that generally most of my guilds have where there's no reason to say this might be an unusually long load screen. You could just say this is an unusually short load screen for the 4 times that we ever get in a reasonable amount of time. Most of them just seem like kind of standard load times. There are still some that have been, this is an unusually long load time, but then they load almost immediately after. So, whatever, I haven't noticed any type of decrease in anything. That being said, to the Cyrodiil point, I haven't had time to play Cyrodiil with the new dungeons, so I have no idea if that's a thing on PS4 or Xbox currently. Hopefully next week I can mess around in there and I can have a better report for, oh yeah, we're encountering the same issues on PS4. I can actually check with the Red Diamond cast, the Red Diamond Courier, to see, because they're on the Xbox side of things. They can hopefully give us an update on the Xbox version of Cyrodiil, and we can find out if maybe it's a similar thing across all things with the patch, or if it's just a PC-based thing. But
right.
Yeah, hopefully this is the groundwork, though, for better improvements down the line is kind of what I'm hoping. And it didn't make anything worse for me personally, so there's no loss at least, so I'm fine with that.
Right.
But yeah, we also, with that, got those sweet new Harrowstorm dungeons that I have been very excited to finally get, as when watching all of you stream, it is really difficult for me to not watch what's going on. I will listen to you guys sometimes, and I've seen, I knew little bits and pieces of what things looked like, but I was trying not to look at the mechanics too much so that I could go in blind myself. But oh my god, finally! Finally!
I have a cat screaming at me.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've got a kitty screaming. The Khajiit wants attention.
I know that's good. He really does. But he also wants to turn off my PC whenever I'm not paying enough attention to him, so he can't come in. Also, otherwise, he'd be in here with me.
Oh, no, go for it. Yeah, so the other thing, too, from Mr. Crowley666 in chat, he plays on, or you play, he plays on PC, NA, and North America PS4. Says the PC seems to be running, or the PS4 seems to be running strong, whereas the PC, on the other hand, is not so hot. So, okay, it actually might just be a PC thing. Thank you for that kind of fill in, because with not being able to get in there myself, I was a little blind on that. So, much appreciated. It does seem like, ugh. All right, maybe it's a PC issue then.
Well, I mean, at least console's getting a break for a little while.
That is a refreshing
I'm okay
change
with
of pace.
this.
Yeah.
No, you did have that issue, and I don't know how you actually resolved it, because I wasn't able to hang out as long on your stream, but you were stuck blocking, and you couldn't unblock?
Oh, yeah. I actually forgot about that, because that was a Materials thing.
Oh, sorry.
So
Didn't mean to jump ahead.
No, that's fine, because, it actually probably should be related more to being here. So, we'll bring up a couple things that I guess we'll call them growing pains for console. It's behind us now. You'll probably be fine. If you haven't gotten the update already, and you're getting it now, I assume these growing pains are behind us. So we had the patch, and then apparently some of us had another small patch of 800 megs promptly after the patch, which fixed crashing or something like that. But as anybody who watched our live stream of the Blind Vet Dungeons, we had an hour and 50 minutes of fishing because we couldn't get our team in to actually run the dungeons. One person, our healer, shout out to Mechafishy, who downloaded it all day, got all excited, and then as it installed, it says you don't have enough space. And he was like, please, no, you can't be doing this to me. And it restarted his download from 0% after downloading it. To which he frustratedly just, I believe, mashed the button to start the game anyways. And the game just started, even though we had a running installation going in the background. He was like, okay, don't know what's happening. So he paused his download and proceeded to do both of the dungeons while the download technically wasn't registering on his system. Worked totally fine. Don't understand what was going on with that. Then there was Delta912, who is in chat currently as well, who was ready to go and jumps in to join us, had it all downloaded, and immediately gets hit with an 800 meg patch. So that didn't go so great either. Yeah. And then mine seemed to work fine, so I didn't really have anything. Promethean also seemed to be just fine. So we were roaming around killing time while we were waiting for everybody to be able to actually get in and play. And problem was, I don't know. So they've changed, as we discussed, they changed the blocking system, so it's not quite the same, so that you don't hit a server desync so many things or so many times. Well, as Pixie mentioned earlier, I got in a really weird animation glitch where normally when you want to get off a mount really quick, you just mash block and your character like propels themselves off. Well, that doesn't work anymore. If you haven't tried the game, you can try doing that and it won't work. Your character just won't register a block because it's not processing to the server the same way. Well, I did that while dodge rolling and doing something else or whatever, and my block got stuck so that I was moving around, but the shield image was fused in front of my character, and I was able to ride around on a mount while I was blocking and all sorts of stuff. It lasted for about 40 minutes or so. I was fishing while blocking. I tried reloading UI. It was still blocking. Don't understand what was going on. It did not give me super block powers, unfortunately, where I could just do whatever I wanted and block at the same time, bringing back the perma block tank from year one. But much to my chagrin, that didn't work. And then for some reason, it just fixed itself. No explanation. Don't know what it was. Haven't run into it again. So, growing pains, I guess. And actually, some people mentioned that they get it every other dungeon on PC. I had it every... Yeah, it was very weird. It was a visual thing only, so it's like, whatever. It's fine. But it was pretty funny riding around on my mount or fishing with that thing up there. So, yeah. But those were pretty much our growing pains until everything got up and running. But they were goofy, and then they've kind of resigned to the background because I've played since then, running the dungeons again and everything like that, and I've run into nothing like that. So, Pixie, I know you've had a busy week, but I've been talking too much. Why don't you clue us in on anything you might have done? Do you have any tales or anything along those lines for us?
A little bit. So I like you just said, I had a really busy week. So whenever I got home, I just kind of wanted to mindlessly do something. And so I ran the Sigic Order stuff. I didn't finish it just yet because I don't have that level of patience. So I've been leveling a DPS, which I haven't actually stuck with a DPS for very long, almost ever. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give a pet Sork a real shot. I have somebody, shout out to Gypsy Sun in Discord and on Twitch. He is helping me build a pet Sork that has an easy rotation, that has good survivability solo, so I can just have fun with something again. Which a pet Sork was my first tune ever on ESO, so I'm kind of like sentimentally attached to that build. Obviously it's different now than it was year one on console, but I was playing on that tune almost exclusively until yesterday. And so I would queue up for a normal dungeon, and DPS queues take a year, so as I was waiting, I'm used to healer queues and tank queues, so this was just a little rough. So I'm like, okay, at the beginning of my night, I'm just going to queue up for a random normal, and then I'm just going to go through the Sigic Order stuff, and eventually I might get into a dungeon, and if not, then I just progressed in Sigic Order, and so it's fine either way. So it was a pretty relaxed week in-game for me. I did try to run some of the Harrowstorm dungeons yesterday. We tried them on Vet, but then one of our DPS kept actually having, Kinara here in chat actually kept having power outages. Oof. So it was Friday the 13th, and anytime I would say, look guys, it's almost dead, it would then just wipe the entire group, and then Kinara's power would go out, just consistently. And so I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to call this one a wash. We're going to go into Scalecaller Peak, because apparently that's just the dungeon that I know the mechanics to.
You love that place.
Apparently now. Now it's just the point that I've done it so many times that one of these days I'm going to do blindfolded Vet Scalecaller Peak. And I just feel like that's the one dungeon where if nobody in the group has cleared it, I can walk them through how to do it. So I'm like, we've got this. And then we get to the boss, the second to last boss, the guy who makes you kill the certain things for the antidote and the vents that explode with vomit or whatever that is. We got to that boss, and we wiped a couple times, and I realized that I'm just randomly mashing buttons, which is not helping the situation because I'm so tired I'm about to pass out because of the week I had. So I'm like, you know what? We're just gonna have to finish this dungeon next time because I'm going to fall asleep if we pull this boss one more time. So it was a whole lot of not anything super exciting this week. I am happy to be playing on a pet Sork again. I'm excited to see how that feels once I get to 50 and get some gear and all of that. So hopefully I still like it then, and it's not like every single other DPS that I've ever made where I get to 50, I'm like, well, I'm sick of you. And then it just sits there and looks pretty in my character list.
So like all of my characters that aren't my actual character and Arkhaniir.
Exactly. See, at least you stick with Arkhaniir, though. Like, Arkhaniir does things. None of my characters, other than my Necromancer, do anything. So, well, okay, I take that back. My High Elf now is a crafter, and that's all she does. Is she goes in, crafts, and then I log out and switch to my Necromancer, and that's just consistently what I do.
That's fair. Well, that was how Arkhaniir started, and then I had to, like, somebody needed a DPS, and I was like, I mean, I'm bad at DPS, so I mean, whatever. But yeah, we brought me in, and that's when I was like, oh man, well, I mean, shout out to my trials group that was like awesome, and they're like, oh, we're fine. Went through, got some clears, and now, you know, I got some gear out of Sunspire, so it's like, oh, well, look at this. Now he's got a decent amount of Mother Sorrow, and I've got Zons just because I have like all the monster helmets just stuffed in a chest. And I was like, oh, cool. Well, I used to get bored and just trait these things with my extra transmutes. So he's just got like a perfect roll on Zons. I'm like, yeah, here we go. This is fine. All right. Anything else of note in the world of Tamriel or anything good? No? Nice chill week other than that?
Yep, it was pretty slow for me. But I do like listening to the Augur, so that's always fun.
I love the Augur of the Obscure. That character is fantastic.
Yeah, and I fell in love with Somerset all over again. So I was roaming around trying to find these rift things, and I kept coming across Indrix, which are my favorite enemies in the game because they're just so gorgeous. And you can actually sneak, for those of you screenshot junkies like I am, you can sneak really close to them without them aggroing and get some really cool, majestic shots because they're always in these beautiful clearings and stuff. And I highly recommend it.
So, here's a question for you then. Do you like collecting the actual Indrix that so much of the community is like, dear God, put me down if there's any more Indrix collecting ticket things? Or do you, because I'm not gonna lie, it was a while back, but I was shocked by one of the polls we ran on the Twitter where I asked how interested people were in the actual ticket based, like, I love collecting these things for getting us mounts, and all the other podcasts basically are over the Indrix thing. Like, I never cared. I don't think Ark cares. Most people are just like, okay, it's a cool idea, but no more Indrix. Like, I get, yeah, whatever.
So,
and, like,
I'm a bit obsessive.
Okay.
Yeah, a bit. So my thing is, I do feel like it could have been better for everyone if it was simplified. So maybe if you just had to get the 4 feathers and you got to pick your evolution,
sure.
Or if you just had to get the berries.
Definitely simplifying it, I think, would help. It doesn't need this many steps.
Right. So that's my complaint about it. But I do really like the Indrix as a mount. I like the little sounds they make. I think they're adorable. They look gorgeous. The animation in and out where they teleport in is super cool, and I really appreciate that. And as an Indrix lover overall, because I was super excited to see them in the game, because the second I saw one, I was like, I need that as a mount. So I was super happy that it's one they're giving away for free, so I don't have to spend a whole bunch of crowns and crown crates to get them. And there's also so many different variations that it feels like I have a whole bunch of different mounts, so I can get it to match any character theme I make. So I really, I legitimately have been diagnosed with OCD, so I think at this point it's just I have to have all of them or I'm just going to be bothered by it.
Okay.
The pets I've been able to dial it back. I don't have all of the pets. I just have a couple of them, but I do have all of them out so far, other than the spectral one that I'm still working on.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I enjoy the Indrix as a mount. I just wish it was easier to get it. So during event times, it wasn't like an obsessive login thing. It was a login because I want to and not because I felt like I had to. So to get the Indrik, because if I missed an Indrik, I would be very sad.
All right, fair enough. I was just curious on that because I know a lot of the community actually really is still on board with it. But I feel like it's maybe because a lot of people in the community don't play maybe quite as obsessively as some of us who are either making content or you know, really invested in collection and stuff like that. I feel like some people, when you drift in and out of it, it's much more, it's a casual activity of something I'm doing, so I think it's more fun. Whereas if you try to really go all in on it, it's like woof. Like that was. There's so many steps. There's so many steps to all the things.
I have noticed that it seems like in the last few events, they've kind of increased the amount of tickets you get per day, so it's easier to get all of the things.
Yes.
And I really do appreciate that. That does make it, even though it's still kind of overly complicated, now I have the routine down pat. You get the 4 tickets, and then you get the 4 berries, and then you have your Evolved Indrik, no big deal. But I know the first time I tried to do this, I thought that the berry you chose was what color it became, but I mean, if you look at the berries, like the budding berry is like green, we'll just say, and then the other one has like a red glow. So I thought that was what was determining the color of my Indrik. So I tried to get the gold one first because that's the one I needed for my high elf. And then it turned green. I was like, wait a second, this is not what I asked for. And then somebody came in and explained it to me. And then it all made much more sense. But the fact that I was that confused, even though I read the directions like 12 times, it could just be a reading comprehension thing on my part. But I think a lot of people were confused. And I know I've had to explain it to people a few times too. So just the overcomplication is my complaint with it.
Look at it this way. If you ever want to feel better about yourself, not bad, feel better about yourself, when you refer to the reading comprehension thing, I wish I could reference the exact show that we were on, but when they first announced the ticket event, never have you seen a group of human beings try to explain a game that they play a lot and this new feature involving tickets and building an Indrik mount more poorly than our episode of Tales, in which I believe it was Dominique Davies who was in chat sent us like a graph because we couldn't we were just fumbling over ourselves like, I think you need this many of the same berry, and he's just like no, oh my god, how are you so bad at this? Like there's a flow chart, like what is the matter with you? So yeah, it is confusing, I think at first at least, and then once you get the flow of it, it's just kind of like, yep, there it goes. But yeah, actually to the note of like the reskinning thing, it is, I mean, it's true. It is literally the same mount with a different veneer on it each time. Now, granted, it's free. It doesn't have to be free. You can buy the tickets or whatever. I would like a little variety in the mounts for people who like to collect the different things or whatever, so that you could have like a few more options. One thing that I am a fan of them doing is I like that you can buy other stuff. Because originally it was berries or feathers, or that was pretty much it. I really like the fact that it's like, oh, you have this many chunks of your Voroplasm pet. You can just buy the other chunks.
Right.
Or the Gravestake thing. Or there was the Legion Zero costume. Like, they're adding extra things in to buy. There's even the mini Indrik pets, as opposed to, like you had said, instead of just the mounts or whatever. So, I like that, but it would also be nice if they also added more mounts to go with it, which I assume it would seem like they're going to, because when you think about it, the Indriks are functioning on, hey, here's the brand new creature from Somerset you've never seen. Okay, cool, that's neat. Somerset, Greymoor is coming out soon, meaning Somerset is turning 2 years old. kind of weird that we're still like, they didn't change up what's happening in the Season of the Dragon for that. So, like, that's, just an interesting shift, so to speak, that it's like, okay, well, we shifted seasons, but we didn't switch the mounts. So
Right.
I'm curious if something will switch, like, I don't know, give us bears or something. Whatever the case may be. But, I don't know, okay. I was just curious on everybody's take on the Indrik, so.
I know it's been kind of polarizing. Either people are appreciative of the free mount in game, or they're just like, please no more Indriks. I've heard both.
It's very similar to, I feel, it's in the very same vein as login rewards, where it's like, hey, cool, free stuff. But then a lot of times it's like, oh, I don't care about this free stuff. So
yeah,
it's hard to complain about something you're not charging me for, you just adding in. But at the same time, it's like, could you make it better? Like, so it's kind of a weird thing. And, I don't know. I like the idea of keeping them and maybe just adding to them over time, because it'd also kind of be crappy if somebody did want them, they just picked up the game, and then they can't go back in time to get the thing. So, like,
right.
Don't make it limited. Just, like, add to the pile of random mounts you can build over time or something like that. That would be kind of neat, as far as I'm concerned, at least.
And I do remember whenever I first started playing the game on Xbox, so before there was even a craft bag or anything like that, there wasn't as many cool things that you got with the SO Plus. I do remember there was a guy that I played with regularly who would just get so upset that you couldn't buy a mount other than just a horse in-game. So I do know this is something that several people, probably way more than several if I'm being honest, a bunch of people wanted from the very beginning is, I would like a really cool looking mount that I can get without having to pay money for it, that I can just grind hours in game for it and be rewarded with a mount. So I do really appreciate that they listen to feedback there, and they're like, okay, so you get the Sunspire mount and you get these Indriks, and you have to play a ridiculous amount of time to get both.
Yep.
So,
yeah, there's definitely more things steadily being added into the game, between skins, like you said, the mount, stuff like that. So they're
right.
in a positive direction for adding this stuff. Because, I mean, there's always plenty of options to buy things. It's nice that there's a mix of, you can buy this thing or you can earn this thing. That's fine.
Right.
Like, I don't think anybody's really too concerned about the cash shop when there's plenty of stuff that you're allowed to get in game to match it. And that's my thing. It's like, it's the biggest thing was Sigil Ambrosia to, like, Crown Scrolls back in the day. It's like, oh, I can't believe it. It's like, well, whatever. There's a game version and there's a store version. That's fine. I don't mind as long as you just keep a balance. So I guess that would bring me to the fact that I have tales that involve these fancy new Harrowstone dungeons that us console chuds got to play finally. So yay, we're no longer left in the dark without an update and stuff. It's amazing. I love these new dungeons. I think they're fantastic. We ran them blind on stream on Tuesday when they dropped. We did Ice Reach first, which a lot of people seem to... Everybody I've talked to seems to like both of the dungeons quite a bit. A lot of people, like, it's pretty much universal that everybody loves Unhallowed Grave, like, as the greatest thing that's ever existed. And that dungeon is awesome. We actually just did the secret run. Most of my team is actually in chat that I did it with. We did the secret chamber for Unhallowed Grave earlier, which I won't spoil for anybody trying to explore it. But the secret's hidden in there. Very cool, very well hidden. Have you done the secret thing yet?
I did.
Okay,
I have
so
the face markings and everything.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I really enjoyed that a lot. I did have to have somebody, because I thought I tore the dungeon apart trying to find them, but I had to have somebody show me where to go, because I just completely missed it, because it is really well hidden.
I kind of, in similar fashion
somebody
to
didn't do it in an accident.
some of how we beat the dungeon, I actually kind of walked into one of the alcoves, but then was just like, yo, man, there's nothing back here. Followed by Delta being like, it's right next to you, and continued down the path when I was like, well, it's not this, when it was that. But the second one of the secrets Yeah, no idea. But also, you need the first secret in order to trigger the second secret, which I thought was cool. So, really neat stuff. Like, I was a big fan of that. Very similar in vein to March of Sacrifices. But, yeah, it's been brought up on the in the chat. So, I will actually, we'll go with my Tales Through Unhallowed Grave with everybody first. So we went through, and the team we had with us was Promethean, Delta 912, who's in chat, and also, Promethean from the podcast, who's able to join us from time to time recently because life is busy, and also Hazardous Mischief. Oh, no, actually, that was him today, so he wasn't in there for original. It was Mechafishy who was originally in there. So we actually ran it with a healer. Not going to lie, that was really awkward. I'm not used to doing that. But, yeah, we had a full official dungeon team with, like, everybody in it. And went through Unhallowed Grave, pretty straightforward. The Kiln boss was interesting. I did know from Arkhaniir's stream that one of the tricks was look up. That was all I knew about it. I just knew that the word look up had something to do with it, because that was the only thing that wasn't a visual thing. I had heard that from Ark being confused and Finn mocking him. Luckily, we did kind of piece that together well. However, I will say that we kind of goofed around not intentionally, but during that boss fight, we were so excited when we figured out what to do. We stopped attacking the boss for some reason. I'm not really sure why that was our thought process. We were like, yep, so we did it. And we just stood there. And then we all got lit on fire and died. And I was like, wait, I thought we figured it out. And then we realized, why did we stop fighting the boss? Like, just because we figured it out doesn't mean we just win, which was a crowning moment. But yeah, so that was one. I'll just refer to it as the Kiln boss, just because that's part of its name, I guess, but without going much more into that.
Can I ask you a question real quick before you move on from that boss? Did
Absolutely.
You get the secret achievement in there?
Oh, yes. We actually found out afterwards that there was a way to not get the secret achievement. We didn't. We were just yelling at each other. Well,
oh my god. So you did it the hardest way you could.
We apparently did it the hard way. As mentioned in chat, the communication achievement. Yeah, we found out afterwards there's a way to do it without screaming at each other. Like, which... Noted going forward, but no, we actually did it the hard way, not realizing it. Yes, that was, we got the achievement and chat filled us in on what we did.
That's amazing.
Yep. I'm trying to describe these bosses without like ruining anything for people going in blind. The boss that changes, I'll just say that one, and it's got two friends. That boss was just very interesting. Surprise is a necromancer. There's all necromancers. I mean, that's not giving too much away. But that boss, that one, when it did its shift, really caught us off guard. It was super entertaining. I thought that boss was a lot of fun. And the one boss that we will kind of go into the mechanic just because of the stupid way that I accidentally solved it. Because again, sometimes it's not about being good, it's about being bad, but making it look like you meant to do something. The ghost boss that can fear you and make you kind of go insane or whatever, on that center platform. So while we were doing it, we were wailing on the boss, killing the ghost, and then we go to the side platforms, we come back, and then all of us are feared, and we're just trying to figure out, like, man, this is a really long stun, and we would break the stun, and we just get re-stunned, and then we just died. And I was like, well, this is horrible. So you have to restart, we go through the thing, and I made some comment where I was like, if these damn pillars weren't in my way, it would be a lot easier to move. As I tried to, like, move around it, I was swinging at it because I was like, I hate this thing. And then it goes into crazy mode, and I notice, oh, I'm not being stunned. if we hide behind these, it totally blocks the mechanic. And that was how we solved that puzzle on our second try. And several people commented in chat. They were like, that was the most dumb luck way I've ever seen anybody do anything. So that was kind of amusing just to have that happen. That was pretty fun. The surprise with the end boss being, I mean, this isn't a spoiler because it's literally been all over the internet. The big dude. That is just really cool. That is a neat boss fight. Have you triggered hard mode on that? I haven't beaten either of the hard modes prefacing this. We goofed around with them briefly, but I haven't had time to get into them. I'm hoping to have them done by next show. But yeah, have you messed with the hard mode on that at all?
I triggered hard mode on both of the new dungeons and almost immediately died.
When that thing gained like 10 million hit points, I was like, huh, that's a lot of health. On that note, when you... If you die to that, which we did violently and quickly, we all died and I was still alive briefly because I'm a tank, so I just have more health. And I was like, well, I give up. So I ran off the cliff to try to be dramatic and hurled myself into the, like, it looks like a kind of like a pool of oil where that guy comes out of. Yeah, it doesn't kill you immediately. It just slowly destroys you. And when you die, it doesn't spawn you back there. It spawns you at the beginning of the dungeon.
There's a really fun way to play with that where it does not spawn you there.
Really?
Yeah.
Do tell.
If you jump into the water and then you swim towards the left where the nearest point to get out of the water on the other side is, and then when you die, instead of reviving, you log out of the game and then log back in, you're back in the water with full health and can make it to the other side to get cool screenshots.
Bonus points. That's awesome, and I will now be doing that. That is...
I did not figure that out. Braun Solo from the Sons of Sithis podcast is the one who filled me in on how to do this, but I immediately tried it and was not disappointed.
That is some elite hacks.
I really hope that Zoss doesn't patch this now that it's out on the airwaves, but
right.
It's amazing.
It's a victimless crime, Zoss.
You get really cool pictures, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay, well,
there's
I know
lots of cool fog effects back there. It's so fun.
That's hilarious.
Tell me if it works on console.
I absolutely. Well, it also makes me wonder if you trigger Big McLarge Huge and then do that. Can you take a picture of the back of his head?
Oh my god, that is... Okay, so now I feel like I need to go in there on normal and just have my tank keep him busy while I do these elaborate steps. And just have everybody not kill him until I get to the other side, because I really want to try this.
Yeah, all right.
We need to try this and report back.
I'm on board with this. Okay. Yes, I got this. So that's what we're going to do. Yeah, so Zoss, if you're listening to this, don't screw with any of that. And now
it's wonderful. We love it. Please leave it.
And now I really want to see, like, what do you imagine if he has like a mullet? So I mean, we never see the back of his head. What if the skeleton has like a mullet back there made of smaller skeletons or something? Who knows?
I will say that the first time I ran Unhallowed Grave, that I had this idea in my head that there should be a grapple point like on the back of the boss. So I jumped. It didn't work out. There's no grapple points at the back of the boss. The spot, the vertebrae going down, those are not grapple points.
All right, noted.
I figured that out. I mean, people by now probably know how to beat him, and it's just it's not that bad.
Yeah.
But it was, unless you're on hard mode, then it's really bad. I haven't beaten it yet, but yeah, I was like, let's just throw ourselves off the cliff and see if we can just Spider-Man to him, and didn't really work.
All right, so let's see. So that was pretty much our run through of Unhallowed, and then Ice Reach. So Ice Reach, I think, it seems like a strong everybody's second place. Everybody likes Ice Reach, it seems like, but like Unhallowed Grave is like too much for Ice Reach to kind of compare to, because Unhallowed is really well done, and I will say I love the secret boss thing in Unhallowed, but I actually think I might like Ice Reach better just as a dungeon. Sans the special thing, which is very cool. Like, I really like that. But I just...
The special thing?
The special boss in Unhallowed.
Okay.
Right. But, like, taking that bit out, I think I actually like Ice Reach better. Actually, that's kind of a good way of putting it in chat. It's fun, but it's kind of generic. I like the setting. It's kind of neat. I actually think that the out in the Sea of Ghosts is just a really cool place for it. And as we discovered earlier, since it's in Hrothgar, that's the entrance to it, you actually board a Jarl's like longboat and you go out there and then it's parked in the ocean entrance. That's super cool.
Yeah.
I just really like that attention to detail. But yeah, it's kind of just your standard type of dungeon, but I just really liked the fights in there. And I'm very eager to do the hard mode in that one because that sounds like absolute chaos with like, here are the bosses, and then also here are the bosses that the bosses spawned beforehand. I was like, oh, this is my personal hell from Black Rose Prison, Arena 4, only in dungeon form. Got it. Like...
So I can actually echo that sentiment a bit. So mechanics-wise, I do personally find Unhallowed Grave more fun if I'm running with a pre-formed group. So if I'm running with people that I also have in Discord so that we can use voice comms and everything and just make things go smoothly, and we're not all going to yell at each other in text chat, then Unhallowed is really, really cool.
Yep.
That being said, visually, I prefer Ice Reach. And I also think that Ice Reach is more puggable. So if I'm just going to go
most
in...
definitely.
Yeah, because the mechanics, there's... The first boss is the one that's the first boss and the Hagraven. Those two have a couple mechanics that we were able to pick up on those pretty quick. They're well telegraphed, so they're not that bad to figure out. Not like that Lich boss that you just stumbled into how to do it. That took me 20 deaths to figure out what on earth I was doing there. So... With Ice Reach, though, I do feel like I could confidently pug that dungeon, and as long as we're not just lacking a tank or lacking a DPS, we'll be able to clear it on vet.
Right.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Easy is not all, and I wouldn't even call it easy. It's just easier than some of the others. So I would say it's even easier than Depths of Malatar on vet, or Fanglair or any of those, but it's really enjoyable. The setting is gorgeous. Lyris is back, and she is just incredible throughout the whole dungeon. So I really appreciate that one. And I did feel like, as somebody who just really likes to take in the environment in the game, I had more to look at in that dungeon than I did in Unhallowed Grave. I felt like Ice Reach kind of took a lot from Moonhunter Keep.
Yep.
Which is a dungeon that I really love the design of, also just from a purely aesthetic standpoint, how you're kind of in a fortress and you feel like you're moving through these rooms and it has a really good flow, and then you come to the outside and you see these gorgeous mountains and the Sea of Ghosts, and the lighting is just gorgeous, and you have those statues of the wolf and the statues of Ysgramor, and so that part of it was really, really awesome for me, which I get is kind of a vanity thing, but it adds to the dungeon as a whole, and I really enjoyed that.
I mean, it's called Fashion Scrolls Online for a reason, so
that too.
that applies to not just us, but also the environment.
I've just learned over the last couple of years that I'm playing this game as a screenshot junkie, and I just like to take pictures a whole lot, and
Yep.
I like doing that more in Ice Reach than I did in Unhallowed Grave.
There you go. See, you get, instead of DPS, you need like screenshots per second, and that's just how you measure your end game.
Ooh.
Yep.
You just gave me ideas.
Yeah,
My tank's gonna hate me next time.
This dungeon's a solid 14 screenshots per second.
Yes.
I like it. Yeah, so that's pretty much that one. In the terms of that, even though I like that one much more, much less memorable story-wise, except for the fact of I can't block the ogre's enraged one shot, which is a shame. So I only tried that once. I was like, oh man. And in general, just like, I don't know, I liked that dungeon quite a bit just as like the flow. It's just like I really enjoyed playing through it. And I don't know, I guess maybe I personally like... We've brought up several times that there's kind of no you do the dungeons on normal, which is for people who play a lot or the more hardcore type. I mean, those are very, very speedy. You know, they're very simplistic. And then the jump to vet, at least on DLC stuff, it's such a jump that it's almost like, oh, you beat normal so quickly. If you're practicing for vet, you're not learning anything. I've made that comparison for Black Rose, where like you can do Black Rose Prison on normal or Maelstrom Arena on normal, and then you try to do the vet version. It's like you didn't learn anything because like it's not even the same league. I like kind of the fact that it seems like with these two dungeons, at least in my opinion, the disparity between normal and vet is a little less extreme, and the real challenge seems to be in the hard mode. So it's like you've almost got that third difficulty, but it's just kind of nestled in at the end type of thing for people who really want it. So that's interesting if they take that approach going forward. Or maybe these dungeons are just like they have a better flow, or people are just better at them, or whatever the case. Maybe these ones just weren't quite as bad, because I feel like these ones weren't as punishing as some of the other ones we've had, like Frost Vault or something, where it's just like, so raise your hands if you made it past the laser grid, and so many people are just like, oh, I'm like, yeah, all right. Sorry,
I still haven't made it past the laser grid.
I'm so sorry.
I've just kind of come to admit that it's going to be a long struggle to actually get that clear.
That one is
part of it,
rough. The end is interesting. It's just the laser grid is...
Yeah, the last time I ran that one, we kept having both of our DPS just DC in the middle of the laser grid fight at random.
That's
and it
not
was
gonna
never
help.
both... Yeah, no, and so that it was just the tank and I just standing there like, well, what do we do now until these two can log back in?
Yeah.
So eventually I will clear that dungeon, but my goodness, it is rough.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, and to be fair, the laser grid, it's not the laser grid itself, it's just the laser grid with all the ads
Yeah.
is a disaster. And just, oh my god, there's just a lot happening in that fight, and it's, I don't know, without just like people nuking everything with a lot of stability on staying alive, it's just like, oh my god, it's so much panic mode. And then actually, you know what, I almost want to run that again, because I've brought up many a time how I don't think the laser grid is working as intended, as I've had some unique ways of surviving the laser grid and or dying to the laser grid. But I'm curious if that works better on console, because I know for a while you guys have had it working much better on PC, whereas
Yeah.
it's still kind of an issue on console, or was. Maybe it's not anymore with the newest patch.
So I do remember whenever that dungeon first launched, I was on PC at that point, and it was super glitchy for me. But then the last couple times I've ran it, it didn't bug out on me. It was working as intended. I just couldn't beat it because I need to get better, and also we had people DCing all over the place. So it was just kind of mostly my own skill, also kind of people crashed and had internet issues. But I do feel that these new dungeons, especially Unhallowed Grave, has such an emphasis on do the mechanics correctly, figure out what the mechanics are, and less just pure chaos. I can't think of a fight that is just, oh my god, there are things everywhere, there's lasers and everything's trying to kill me all at once. It's more, get the boss to the thing, smash the other thing, do this with the fire, and you just have to follow the steps and you'll be okay. And then the grapple just brings an all new fun mechanic to it, where I know whenever we got really good at the Lich Boss grapple mechanic, where we would zip between the islands, we'd all get fancy and jump first and let it fall for a minute. And then we would do the thing just to scare everyone else in the group, because occasionally we would mess up and we would fall to our doom.
Yeah.
So just to see if we could fake people out and how long we actually had to wait. It was just a lot of fun. So I did really appreciate how it was less chaos and more mechanics. Mm-hmm. There was still a good touch of chaos, just like all ESO fights, because it is such active combat and such quick pace compared to something like Final Fantasy. But it was something where if you know the mechanics and if you just keep at it, you're going to pass it. And that was really, really nice.
Yeah, no, I can definitely agree with that. So I guess that brings us... Wow, all right, already an hour of this. Just checking my own internal clock. For us not having a lot of stuff prepared because of all the damage control at the start, this actually turned into a real episode. How about that?
See, we could talk about things.
Exactly. Well, it did help that we just got this mega patch and do dungeons on console. That does make things a little easy.
Yeah.
The other set of tales that I have is from Elder Scrolls 1 Arena, as I got more time to play since last show. I had when I last left off, we had finally beaten Labyrinthian, got the second piece of the Staff of Chaos, and I was concerned that when I went back to town that I was going to get smashed by whatever it was that Jaeger von Tharn had spawned. Well, so I spawned back in, and I'm not really sure what the deal was, but I thought I had triggered an event, and I was like, oh, I guess maybe it's not night, so I can't get murdered by this thing, because I didn't die immediately. But there was just a ring of people around me. Like, it was a circle of NPCs. And the NPCs are sprinting all over the place in towns. It's obnoxious to try to catch them and ask them questions. And I was like, oh, what is this? Like, so I started talking to them, and they're all just generic NPCs. It just loaded them in a really creepy circle around me. And they were all just staring at me, and I was like, okay, this is weird. And as soon as I moved, they all scattered like bugs in different directions back on their like pathing. So I was like, okay, that was just creepy. So that was how I got back into that game today, and I was like, well, that's an unnerving way to start things. But I went back, I picked up my real sword, sold off all my junk, because there was just so much junk. As we learned the last time I played, you can have... So not only does Elder Scrolls Arena make you manage your weight, like, oh, you're carrying this many kilograms of useless trash, but also there's an amount of physical items, regardless of weight, that you can carry. And if you get more than that, they're just like, nah, you're done, man. You don't get to carry anything else. You're all done. I'm like, what? Why? Like, why even have two stipulations? Like, if I want that many forks, why can't I have... They don't have forks, but if I want this many useless gauntlets of crap, like, why can't I carry that many? But it's like, nope, hard cap on weight and that. So that's lame.
So it's essentially a combination of ESO's slot-based system and Skyrim's weight-based system.
Yes, it's like a little of both. Also, just to address this, because it is something that I've been looking into as well, the Daggerfall Unity project, which has been referred to in chat, it is still being worked on, but as far as I know, it is actually somewhat functional, and I think it's almost a full release. I will be finding out about it as it gets closer, because I plan on playing the straight-up original disaster one on DOS. But I'm not going to lie, I'm probably going to look at the one that's probably not a flaming dumpster of trash as well, because I know that game's a hell of a lot bigger than Arena is, and I have run into some interesting problems with Arena. Although Arena doesn't crash all that much as of late. More knock on wood. Yeah, there it is. But yeah, so I went and got my junk, and I was like, well, I have no direction now is the only problem. And I remember last time UESP mentioned something about like the Elder Tree or something like that. And I was like, I don't really remember what they said. I could just look it up, but I don't want to do that either. I was like, maybe my character hasn't slept for real, like not on a wooden floor or a dungeon floor covered in skeevers and trolls and stuff. So I went to an inn, I bought an inn, a room in an inn, and I let my character sleep for a day. And I slept for like 5 minutes, and the ghosty lady came back, and she's like, oh, you totally need to go to Valenwood. I was like, all right, well, that was quick. So, got my direction, do need to go to Valenwood. So I traveled to Valenwood, which, very similar to ESO Valenwood, got all the places, and I chose Elden Root right in the middle. And I was like, oh, sweet, I'm going to go to Elden Root. it's not a big tree in Arena. it's generic City B. But yeah, whatever. It's okay. So I was like, all right, whatever. It's neat that these things are here. And I ask around town. They tell me that they don't know where this thing is. The Staff of Chaos and all this stuff. So I go into the main thing, and or usually to get your directions, I've figured out the system at least to it. To get the directions, you go to the region, the region of the area that's in charge. And this one had a queen, and she goes on and talks about Celine and how they're being oppressed by this witch Celine. And I'm like, Celine? That's like as in Celine from Celine's Web and Lair of Marsalok Celine? And toward the end of the dialogue conversation, she directs me to going to the web of spiders known as Celine's Web. And I was like, holy crap, Celine's Web is also in Elder Scrolls 1 Arena, which is blowing my mind at this point. How much influence Elder Scrolls Online has from the original Elder Scrolls game. Like, we've been to Fang Lair, we've been to Celine's Web now. I was going to say, Labyrinthian is from Skyrim, so it's like, this series really actually draws a ton from what we originally got. Which is, that's just nuts to me, because this game is 26 years old. And there's so many references to stuff. So, whatever, I bring it up. And the best part about this, which I was like, wow, that is a level of detail that the Elder Memes has made references to. Don't gatekeep the lore, just let people have fun with it and stuff like that. It really makes me think a lot of people who would crap on this Elder Scrolls Online when it came out. Now, granted, it had a ton of technical issues, which I understand why people weren't happy with, but like, so many people are just like, oh, this isn't an Elder Scrolls game and blah, 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 blah. Makes me under the impression that these people just didn't like this, because, man, the amount of Elder Scrolls in ESO from the original games just makes me think all of these people touting that never played the original game.
Right.
Because when you go to the world map, Celine's Web is literally where Celine's Web is in relation to Eldenroot on the tree. And I'm like, dude, it's even positioned to like, oh, it's the southwestern corner on the side of it. It's just like a little farther away, because it's on like a world map instead of like a one zone thing. But I was like, dude, this is like friggin' sweet. So I went to Celine's Web. Needless to say, Celine's Web looks a little different. They all have some cosmetic changes inside. But I slogged my way through Celine's Web for 2+ hours. Actually, probably around 2 hours a day. Where I left off, I am still trapped in Celine's Web. I have not gotten out of Celine's Web. I got through the first floor of Celine's Web, which is incredibly maze-like, and I don't understand why Celine's Web itself is just riddled with dead ends. Like, they just go nowhere. It's like, oh man, it's these twisting corridors, and twisting meaning like square lines because it's on a grid-based system because it's sprite-based. But like, I would zigzag through these things, and then just boom, dead end, nothing there. I'm like, well, that's miserable. And I turn around and I'm mauled by spiders. And I was like, okay, cool, that's great. That's what I wanted. But the things of note in Celine's Web, the reason I go to Celine's Web is she is murdered a bunch of people from the surrounding area. And she's using Horvors to suck them dry and bring them back to the nest to feed her spiders, I guess, because people just keep finding husks everywhere. And then they sent in some troops to try to slay her, and apparently she sent back all their heads on spikes, so they gave up and they sent me as soon as I showed up, because apparently I'm considered better than what they had going for me, because they have low standards, I guess. But I went in, and as I'm roaming through, it seems like it's 2 floors. Like I said, I haven't beaten it yet. But the things of note, as I like to give highlights of these ridiculous things that I am in, as I was going down one of these hallways, the game has a tendency to spawn creatures in behind you creepily, or they're hiding in some nook and they jump out and beat the hell out of you. Well, I went through one of these maze areas and I got lost and I could not figure out exactly what direction I was heading from. So I realized it ends at a dead end, so I start backtracking and I turn around and there is a naked dude there. He's just like in a loincloth with a mace. And I've never, for anybody who's seen gameplay from this game, is there's a set thing, like this is a spell sword. They all look exactly the same. This is actually I can't give my description for what the mage is, because this is a PG show, but there's a mage, and she's in suggestive attire. The costumes are interesting in the game, we'll just put it that way. But yeah, PG prevents me from explaining what that one's called. There's an old man who's like another type of mage. There's like this stealth assassin. There's a Nord person. There's these varying degrees of... I have never seen this character in 20 hours of gameplay up to this point. It's just this naked dude in like a fur thong. And I'm like, what is this? And we just start teeing off on each other. And I'm not doing my customary miss 1,000. I am just cleaving into this guy and nothing. He's just wailing on me back. And I'm like, this isn't good. This is starting to get problematic. At which point, he beats the hell out of me and kills me just outright. I'm like, damn, I really don't understand what was up with that. Followed by, I have no idea what that was, as I have not seen him since. When I respawned, he wasn't there. I've continued on the dungeon for another hour, never found him again. Don't know what that is. Since I couldn't kill him, I don't know what his name was. I don't know if he was a named character. This game, I swear, spawns enemies periodically just to mess with your head. So, not entirely sure what the deal was with that guy. But then, after I managed to destroy myself against his mace, because he didn't kill me, I killed myself. That's what we're going with. But yeah, so never found him again. Continued to roam around. On the second floor of this place, and this is the only other thing of note, the descriptions that you get from walking around in these areas, they give you very, very lengthy descriptions of what you're seeing, as I've mentioned before. And they're usually triggered by stepping over a certain panel. And when I walked over this panel, the exact wording was mating dens, no lights or noise. And it's just a hole in the wall.
So I think I found where your naked man lives. I think that's more obvious. You disrupted his time in his mating den, and then he went back to the mating den to hide because he didn't want to continue beating you up. He wanted to continue doing whatever that is that they do in the mating den.
All right, we're going to go with that for how that is. In the mating dens as well. So you can... I jumped into that weird black hole because why not? And I'm like, okay, cool. What's in here? And as I walked around, there's little markers on the floor. They look like little trapdoors. You can't do anything with them or whatever. And it is just filled with spiders. And I'm like, great. This is like a kinky spider sex den. This is what this is. So... there was really nothing else to say about that section of the map except that Celine is into some weird stuff. And we killed our way through that. It was really awkward that's in there. I know that the older portions of the series have some weirdnesses, I suppose would just be a good way of putting it. And the mating dens in Celine's web were a little peculiar, to say the least. But I managed to murder all the stuff in there. again, there was no focus in there. It was just a side tangent of, hey, these are the mating dens. Knock yourself out. And I'm like, ugh, no. So I left off roaming around down there. There's still several more tunnels that I need to explore. But, man, this is a fun game to play. You need to have patience. You need to be willing to die a lot because, you die a lot in that game until you get your. I'm dying much less. I only died like 3 times this last stream. The naked dude murderized me. I think I got bum rushed by like 1 or 2 other things. Like, I think I got frozen to death by spiders at one point because there were so many of them. Like, nothing too extreme. Not like the crazy I died like 80 times in one stream type of deal. But there's a lot of kind of out of nowhere difficulty spikes, but much more manageable once you get the hang of it. So the bigger problem is navigating these maps and designs is sometimes pretty brutal. These maps are huge. They're puzzly. The bigger problem, of course, is I know this is a much more simplified version of what Daggerfall has to offer, where the dungeons are 3-dimensional. Like, they're not pseudo 3-dimensional, they're just straight up 3-dimensional. So that'll be interesting to get into. But yeah, again, simple dungeons in this game. 2.5 hours were not through Celine's web, but that's what I've uncovered in Celine's web so far. I also don't know where I'm going after Celine's web, so at this point, I get super entertained every time I find something I recognize from another game. Just because so many of these things relate to the other games, and it was something I did not expect when starting playing Elder Scrolls Arena, so high hopes that I go somewhere cool after this. Like, if I go to some place called the Lair of Marslok, I'm going to be like, what is happening? So, also brought up, if I get out. That's true. If I'm not lured seductively down into the mating dens for my untimely demise of horrible spider death.
So I will say that I know people made a big deal out of Fanglair being from Arena, and then I think it was Depths of Malatar was from Oblivion. I never knew that Celine's Web was in any other Elder Scrolls games. Me either. And knowing that that's a side dungeon in this game, it's just so cool that was included, and I really appreciated that watching your stream.
Yeah, that's super cool. The other one that I've heard about, again, I assume it's true. I actually believe Ophelia Noir might have been the one who mentioned it originally back when it was brought up. The Halls of Colossus, where the dragons are released for elsewhere. I believe that's supposed to have something to do with Elder Scrolls 1 Arena as well. I don't know that for a fact, but I think that might be something in Elder Scrolls 1 Arena. I have not gotten there yet, but it's one of those things that I'm kind of subtly keeping my eyes peeled for. And then more so, the more I find out how many reference points there are, I'm like, oh my god, there's more. Like, so yeah, very, very excited to see where I go next. But I think that's pretty much it. Do you have anything of note that you would like to add into the show?
Nope.
No? All right. Well, I guess, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Hopefully Ark is feeling a little better. I'm going to just mention it now. We will be drawing them off screen like I had mentioned. But at the conclusion of the show, we're going to pick the 3 winners for the Twitter giveaway of the... Actually, I'll show them because I actually have one on my desk. The Elsewhere coins. We have more stuff to give out for promotional stuff throughout the coming year. So stay tuned if you don't actually already follow our Twitter. We'll be giving out more goodies that we've been provided to the community, just to kind of thank you all for supporting us for all that we do. But on that note, I will say that I guess we can go into our final closing. which is not going to be nearly as smooth because I don't have this memorized. I might have gotten through the opening thing without too much of a disaster or weird references to things. But on the flip side, I'm not nearly as good as an outro. You can have fun cleaning all of this up, Ark. But thank you, everybody. You can follow everything we do over at dungeoncrawlernetwork.com. There you can find links to all of our social media, including Twitch, which, just a disclaimer, we happen to be on my personal page tonight. Usually we're over at Dungeon Crawler Network on Twitch, but also HyperPixie. Where you can, and there's also our YouTube, our Twitter, our Facebook. Be sure to check out our Patreon that has been relaunched over at patreon.com/dungeoncrawlernetwork if you want to help support the show, and consider leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes so people know that we are a real podcast. We say real words, and sometimes they matter. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Tales of Tamriel. We'll see you next time. So from Lotus and HyperPixie, have a great night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
When Akatosh slew Lorcan, he ripped his heart right out. He hurled it across Tamriel, and the heart was heard to shout, red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. The laughing heart sprayed blood afar, a gout on Seer it fell, and like a dart shot to its mark down in an alien well. Magicka fused the Lorcan blood to crystal red and strong. Then wild elves cut and polished it down to Chimel at a ball. Red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. When elves lost Nirn to men, Akatosh gave the stone to Saint Alesh in token of her right to sit the throne. Red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. Red diamond, protect us till the end.